Hello and welcome to Coach's Decision, a weekly talk show that touches on sports talk from the Bay Area and beyond. My name is Thomas Todd. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me on the phone here in the KSCO studio, he's the co-prosecutor that Marsha Clark chose in the O.J. Simpson trial. It's Danny Zarchi. How you doing, buddy? Okay, having a little technical difficulty. Can't hear Danny in my headset, so we're going to tell you what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about whether or not we should move the three-point line in the NBA backwards, forwards, to the side, expanding the court. We're not sure the geometry of the court and what it should be. We're also going to talk about the Warriors. Draymond rants. Steph hits big shots. And Danny, are you there? Still no love. We still have dead air. I'm going to keep telling you what we're going to talk about. We've got Sam Bradford and Joe Flacco with new contracts. We've got Colin Kaepernick trade rumors. Manning and Brady. We can't keep talking about Manning and Brady on every show. Manning's just going to have to retire, and Brady's going to have to die. I'm not quite sure which one's going to happen first. All right, Danny, are you there, my friend?
I am here. That's real good radio, man.
I know. A slight delay. I can't. What do you do? When the technology fails you, the technology fails you. Thank goodness for Chris Spencer in the other room. He comes and swarms like so many bees. How are you, Danny?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's an interesting day. It's an interesting week of sports we get to talk about.
We're going to shake off that rough start, just like the Warriors shook off the Atlanta Hawks lead on Monday night. Let's talk about the Warriors without Steph. Did that impress you? Do you feel like they are a better team than you thought because of how they played without Steph and Iguodala? Or do you feel like they're so good already that was what you expected?
I think anybody who has lived through Steph Curry ankle problems is always going to keep that in the back or possibly front of their mind. And so seeing that the team can do really well without him is good. I mean, then again, its meaningfulness is extremely limited because, you know, obviously this team has championship aspirations and nobody's pretending that they'd be able to, say, contend against the Spurs without Steph. So
how far could they get in the Western Conference without Curry?
I just don't even want to think about it. I mean, like, they'd have to, obviously their whole team is not just, you know, shooting. And just not just pass to Steph and let him shoot, but so much of it is built around that if, I almost feel like they'd have a better chance in the playoffs if he went down earlier and then they could get used to playing without him or something like that. But basically, I mean, my point is it's nice to see everybody else play really well because I think that means that when Steph is there, having these guys who on their own can contribute, and when Steph isn't in the game can contribute, like it gives him more time to rest. But at the same time, it's not like, you know, maybe it's the difference between 65 and 68 wins on the season, but it's not the difference between could they beat the Spurs or the Thunder in the playoffs.
Right, and it was Ian Clark running around out there, James Michael McAdoo trying to do stuff. That was disconcerting as someone who watches a lot of Warriors games. Like, the flow just goes. Like, it's gone when you have those reserve lineups with those guys who don't see a lot of action. And I think sports media has beat to death what happened Saturday in Oklahoma City. We saw the Curry shot. We saw all the amazing stat lines, but they clinched the playoffs. 19 million things came out of that game. So let's project forward because we're here Wednesday night on KSCO, technology permitting. And tomorrow they take on Thunder at Oracle Arena. What do you expect in that game from the Thunder? They have to come with some kind of vigor and authority and try to break that win streak at home for the Warriors and reestablish themselves as non-choke artists.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly if Steph and Iggy are going to be back.
They're going to play, Danny. They're going to play. Steph held himself out because he said, I hit 12 three-pointers in a game. I won it in dramatic fashion. In the same game, I rolled my ankle. I need a break. He wanted to be ready for that OKC game, so he'll take a game off against Atlanta, who doesn't quite have the same chutzpah they had last year or title aspirations this year. So, take that game off, but he's going to play. Come on.
I mean, you have to assume that. It's just, it's something that they mentioned, so it's something that we have to mention. The obvious analysis is that the Warriors do play better in Golden State, or in Oakland. So, you have to kind of give them a little bit more credit. They also beat the Thunder at home last month, 116-108. And the Warriors haven't lost at home in 30 months. I mean, it's not that many, but I'm thinking back to a game I went to against the Nuggets when Kenneth Faried made an amazing layup at the last second and won the game. And I was thinking that might be the third to last game the Warriors lost at home, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's been a stunning run. They're at 43 right now. The Thunder game will actually tie them with the Bulls for 44 straight home wins, and then they could break the record. I'm not sure when they come home next. I know over the weekend they're on the road. But they could go 3-0 on Oklahoma City for the season so far. And considering that that's a potential second-round playoff matchup, that's got to be devastating for the Thunder and, a feather in the cap for the Warriors to have a 3-0 advantage. Because I haven't played San Antonio more than once yet. I have 3 more games still against them. But 3-0 on Oklahoma City would be such a mental edge.
Yeah, and just to go with what you were saying, they're going to be in L.A. playing the Lakers on Sunday, and then on Monday playing the Magic at home.
Oh, so, we'll win that one, yeah.
Yeah. So we obviously feel pretty good about that. It's really hard to beat a really good opponent more than once in a season, especially, or, to sweep a season series. So I don't think anybody's taking it for granted, that the Thunder are still fantastically good. And anything can happen on any given, what day of the week is that going to be? Any given Thursday. So...
I thought you were going to bust out your Pacino impression for a second.
No, so it was really great to see that, but the records, all these records kind of, this is where they come up, The Warriors want to win. They want to win they want to beat the season record. So it would make sense if they were going to push the guys a little more and push through injuries. So, but it was nice to see. I think if you ask Warriors fans and you ask the Warriors players, they'd rather have a ring than the record. So,
absolutely. But they already have a ring. Why not? ¿Por qué no los dos?
Right, but it's a matter of, if you were Curry or Kerr, would you have benched the 2 guys yesterday and potentially lose an extremely winnable game against an inferior opponent?
I think Steph makes his own decisions about whether or not he plays, especially after he's visibly injured in a game, and I think he'll decide whether he plays tomorrow or not. But I agree with you that rings over record, but right now they're so close to the record, you might as well just make a final push for it. Okay, one more Warriors thing before we move on to the NBA at large. You were listening to Kirk Goldsberry talk about moving the three-point line out. And you said you have some opinions, and I've always had opinions on this as well. So what do you think about that?
I think you have to ask why you're doing it. And one of the things that really got me annoyed about that talk, and to be clear, it wasn't Goldberg saying they should do it, but it was saying that he was presenting on it at the Sloan conference and that it's something to think about, which, I like it when people bring up things to think about, and I don't judge them based on the fact that they brought up something to think about. But
thank goodness, because that's my job.
But I just hate the idea of changing, of looking at the way the NBA is today and saying, this isn't how it used to be, therefore we need to fix it. The NBA is different. That's true. Teams are shooting from deep more because they figured out different strategies. And if this ends up resulting in the death of the power forward, then so be it. I'm a big believer in kind of taking a laissez-faire approach to sports, and obviously not when it comes to injuries and rules like that, but when it comes to dictating how the players play and strategies that they can employ, what I really love to see is how the sport evolves. And this is something that you and I have talked about, and how I've probably yelled a lot on various shows when the commissioner of baseball was talking about banning infield shifts because the offense was down and people didn't know how to do it, and all these big fat pull hitters were just grounding out. And my thing is, look, the reason why they're shifting and why it's working is because previously these big fat pull hitters were taking advantage of a market inefficiency, or they were figuring out something that they could do, and now people are responding to it. And as a result, it's giving rise to more value of slap hitters who can really control where the ball goes. And I just love seeing this give and take of people adapting to each other. And so if the NBA is going to turn into just a bunch of people shooting from deep, then maybe that will, in 20 years, some innovative coach will come along and say, well, wait, what if we had big men and they play down at the box, and now, my 6'10" guy is going up against your 5'4" guy, and even though he can shoot really well, I'm just going to dunk over him every single time.
Our friend Little Rob is not going to make the NBA. Famously short, Little Rob. Here's my counterpoint to that. What's happening now is NBA three-point shooters, the actual shooters, guys like Lillard and Curry and Korver, are not being rewarded accurately for their shooting skill, because guys like Kevin Love, guys like random stretch power forwards, the Morris twins, or whoever you want to name, can all now make threes. And mostly they can make open threes, not the threes off the dribble that Lillard and Curry can make. But it's devaluing the three-pointer. So if you moved it out another foot and a half, the good three-point shooters are still going to make threes. But it's going to take out this lower middle class of three-point shooters who shoot 37% when wide open, which isn't a great shooting figure, but when you run the numbers on twos versus threes and the percentages, it's a good NBA shot. So it's basically just taking a good NBA shot and making it a bad NBA shot again, and having this whole class of quote-unquote guys who can shoot threes become guys who now just shoot mid-range jumpers.
Yeah, I just don't really see – I don't think that that's a good idea, because, if you look at baseball and you look at Giancarlo Stanton could hit the – he's not being properly valued, because he could hit that out of the park if the center field were 550 feet away.
Right, you don't get any more runs.
Instead, you've got the Kevin Kiermaiers of the world hitting 10 home runs because they can hit it over a 340 ball. So are you supposed to just move back all the fences so that only a few people can hit home runs, and those are the ones who are properly valued? Instead, what I'd like to see is maybe the way it's going to turn out is Curry is just going to shoot from 32 feet more often, because he knows that he's not going to get guarded out there.
So are you advocating for a 4-point play?
No, I mean, not necessarily.
That's the only other way under your system to reward actual elite shooters.
Well, the reward from shooting from 32 is that no one would ever guard you.
as Andre Roberson can attest to.
Right, because, if you start shooting from 3, then people start guarding him from there, and then that stretches the defense even more, and now you can, get Draymond on the layup or something like that. And so I really like the give and take and the adapt and readapt. And I think when somebody comes in and says, oh, something's broken, let's change the rules, it really kind of hinders the ability for people to see how the sport would naturally progress. Now, I mean, I like what they were talking about in terms of making the line even or spacing it out a little bit, because those all kind of made sense.
The corner's too shallow.
Yeah, it's just that when they were talking about basketball isn't as fun or isn't what it used to be, that's why we need to change it, then that's what really bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the changes I haven't liked in basketball is the lesser contact on the inside, everything's a foul, and guys who normally would never be able to shoot threes now can. And that kind of happened in the 90s, too, when they moved the line in, and all of a sudden Mario Elie was an elite three-point shooter, a guy who could only make mid-range jumpers before, but now could get his foot behind the line and sink a bunch of threes and win a title with Houston.
Sure, I mean, so if you want to move it to 25 feet, I can see the appeal of that. I just, if you can articulate it like you just did, that, we want 30%, we want to keep the league three-point conversion rate the way it was 10 years ago, and so we're going to move it here. That's kind of interesting. If they're just like, this isn't my dad's basketball, or this isn't my slightly older brother's basketball, then, that's just kind of it just kind of feels like old men wanting things, wanting people to get off their lawn.
Old men yelling at cloud.
Exactly.
All right, well, we're going to take our first sponsor break. We're going to tell you about Fanatics.com and FansEdge.com, 2 sports merchandise websites that will sell you quality sports merchandise on the cheap. Go to their sites, but before you do, go to our site, coachesdecisionkSEO.com, and click through to theirs so they can send us some sweet, sweet revenue dollars. That's Fanatics.com and FansEdge.com, but please go through and click on our website, coachesdecisionkSEO.com. If you want to call the show and get my home address, you can send me a Draymond Green jersey. That's fine. If you want to send me a Michigan State a hat, I would love all of those things. So I'll put that on my wish list for you guys. Danny, what am I getting you for your birthday?
Let's go with a Jerry Rice jersey.
Jersey. you are the king of the jersey, the poor man's jersey.
I'm not actually sure I have any jerseys anymore. I remember I had a Steve Young jersey when I was little.
When were you little?
When I was 8 years old.
Okay. I was bringing up the People versus OJ thing in the opening before the technology went to pot, but I wanted to bring up, are you watching this show?
I watched about an episode and a half of it because it was on. I mean, I found it really, really captivating.
Oh, it's you don't have to lie. You can say you don't like it.
I do. I just don't have access to it right now, but I'll probably watch it after it's done, and I can get it on demand.
In the most recent episode, this is a non-spoiler, the jury, I mean, because it already happened, the jury is in OJ's house, and there is a middle-aged African-American man in a San Francisco 49ers hat, and his one scene he gets is he gets to ogle OJ's Heisman Trophy.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure what? They got a 49ers fan on TV. You should be stoked.
Yeah.
I pictured that as you in OJ's house, like wearing a Niners jersey. Oh, he played on the Niners for 2 years, right?
Yeah, it's not exactly the context we want. We want to be represented. I mean, OJ is not a very good man.
Well, currently in jail. The truth will be told, Danny. I think by the time we get to the end of this series, we'll see if he did it or not.
Although compared to other Heisman winners,
Danny, you're horrible. Let's not go into.
Let me just say it's not the most upstanding group of citizens.
No, it's not. Poor New York Downtown Athletic Club. All right, we do want to transition into football though, because there are some contracts being handed out that are very interesting. Tom Brady has signed on to play now through 4 more seasons. Now, this contract doesn't have to be honored by both sides all the way, but do you think he actually plays 4 more seasons?
I think he could. I mean, he famously said, I think a year or two ago, that he wanted to play into his mid-40s, and actually at the time kind of was pointing at Manning and saying, like, I'm better than him, right? But he doesn't really do anything that's unsustainable. I mean, obviously everything is unsustainable because his body is going to break down, but he doesn't throw it deep. His whole game is quick step, quick throws, and, get scrappy little white guys who can take a shot.
Danny Amendola cannot take a shot. He's proven that.
Well, he's tried.
He goes out, he takes a shot, and then he comes back for the playoffs.
Yeah. So, I think if there's anyone, let me put it this way, if there's anyone who I would trust to play out 4 years into their, early 40s, he'll be, 42, 43, by the time that contract is over, 42, it would be Tom Brady.
Well, I mean, guys like Vinny Testaverde have played really late. Warren Moon, guys who are lesser quarterbacks than Brady, have done it. So I can see it happening. I just think he'll be exhausted after 2 more years of just this constant training camp and all the playoff runs. Honestly, he's going to have played in more games than almost anyone if you add regular and postseason combined, just because he's in the playoffs every single season.
Yeah, but he's the quarterback.
He's the that means he's involved in every offensive play.
I know, but and that's not to say that quarterbacks don't take a beating, but they take less of a beating. especially with the rules the way that they are, and especially, Brady got sacked a lot toward the end of the season.
Well, and the rules weren't like that early in his career. Early in his career, the rules weren't like that.
I know. I just mean quarterbacks tend to be able to play later than every other position. It's not, it doesn't involve kicking a ball. So it's not unheard of. And I think as long as, I think there's a pretty good chance, especially given how meticulous he is with his training and keeping himself in good shape, that there's a pretty good chance that he'll stay effective during that time and play out the contract. Because, what would it take for him not to, right? First, he would need to have a bad season. Well, he would need to have a bad season to the point that they actually draft a quarterback who has the chance of being.
You don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo?
Do you?
I mean, when I don't think of him as Janine Garofalo, then yeah, probably.
No, I don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's
I don't
Brock
really
Osweiler.
know.
I mean, he's probably Brock Osweiler. Why not?
Right, but from their perspective, their whole scheme relies on having the best quarterback and mediocre everything else. And in order for them to continue to have a good quarterback, they would need to, he would have to have a bad year, and they would have to draft a quarterback. Maybe they'll draft him in the second or third round, and because they're not drafting one in the first round this year, we know that for sure.
They're not drafting anyone in the first round this year.
Yeah.
Because of Brady.
But maybe they'll draft someone in the second or third round, and he can, watch Brady and find out, figure out what he does and be mentored, and 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line, he'll be ready.
I don't think.
But that's not really the way a lot of teams have been doing it.
I don't think Brady mentors anybody. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy.
Right. So what seems like a slightly better chance is that Brady's going to show signs of decline, and the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback high. But that's a several-year process.
Right. Well, you brought up Manning, and I have a hot take. I believe he's trying to bore us into not caring whether or not he retires, because it's starting to work on me. Is it working on you?
Yeah, I don't even remember who you're talking about.
I'm so bored with Peyton Manning's impending decision. It's got to come down by March 9th, which is officially a week away. But why has he not decided it? Does he not know, or does he just not want us to know?
I mean, it's also possible that he kind of is avoiding the public spotlight given the whole rape thing.
Well, Spotlight's the best thing around right now.
Not
won
rape,
an Oscar.
But,
Spotlight won an Oscar. You know what it is. The sexual assault.
Sexual assault.
The what do we call it? The U of T bag.
Anyway, so we did not call it that.
Sorry, I called it that.
That must have come out later with your other friend.
Right. Write your letters to me, not to Daniel Zarchi at GiantsPod on Twitter.
I mean, maybe Archie's telling him to kind of stay out of the limelight now. What would happen if all this stuff, obviously, nothing new happened. This is all kind of a discovery of stuff that happened.
Did you say Archie told him? The man is 38 years old. Do you think he listens to his father?
Klay Thompson doesn't get to control his own money.
Well, yeah, Klay Thompson's 26. I think by 38, I mean, you and I are fast approaching 30. I think by 38, I don't even know if I'll call my parents if I'm in the hospital anymore.
Okay, that's mean.
What? I'll just be my own person. He's his own person. I don't think Archie Manning has anything to do with this decision as much as Eli Manning does.
Okay, then just the people around Peyton are saying, imagine what would happen if all this stuff comes out and people are saying, wait a minute, maybe Peyton Manning was too good to be true. Maybe somebody who's actually won the league turns out, committed a sexual assault all those years ago and then destroyed this woman's life and all this terrible stuff. And then a couple days later, he's like, I'm retiring, throw me all your accolades. Respect my career. That would not be good. If I were him, I would want to kind of let it blow over. Not that it necessarily is going to blow over, except for the fact that people don't remember things for more than a week. And then announce it.
So Daniel Zarchi Esquire getting into the PR business, advising Peyton Manning to lay low another week so that a stiff wind can blow away all of the allegations and the court proceedings and the HGH and all the fallout that Manning has had this year. I can see it.
I don't know why you think that the practice of law is anything but PR.
Well, that's what I'm seeing in the People versus OJ, where it's just Johnny Cochran making these ludicrous statements that people just eat up because they have assonance and alliteration, and he has a strong stance. So I guess that's all it is. Is that just trial lawyer stuff, or is that like actual court proceeding stuff?
Well, the stuff I'm doing, none of it has actually gone to trial, so it's all kind of.
But there are lawyers who are like behind the scenes people who are not like the big showy, Johnny Cochrans of the world or F. Lee Baileys of the world. There's guys who are like doing the drudge work, right?
Well, sure, and even beyond the drudge work, you've got the vast majority of cases out there settle. So it's and you even see that in OJ that like they talked about a plea deal and all that kind of stuff, so a lot of the stuff that every lawyer does is going to settle before it actually turns into a big showy trial. But yes, so maybe one day I'll be doing a big showy trial, but those are few and far between.
Peyton Manning, we're gonna set you up.
Yeah, maybe we'll represent the woman in the case.
Okay, we're gonna take another quick break before we talk some baseball. To tell you about 99 Bottles, the premier drinking and dining destination in downtown Santa Cruz. 99 Bottles is a personal favorite of this show and all of its contributors. We've all been there. I've seen Joaquin Nagel there. I've seen Daniel Zarchi there. Not sure if I've seen producer Tory there, but we'll have to fix that as we go down. We all love to enjoy a brew or a nice cocktail and a good meal, and that's the perfect venue for it.
I'm enjoying one right now. I just muted my phone to take a sip while you were talking.
It's the 100th bottle?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't have Fat Tire there.
Yeah, actually, I'm actually fairly certain that they do. When you have to get to 99 or 112 or whatever they have these days, you have to kind of include some of what I would consider the lesser craft brews like Fat Tire, but let's not besmirch a New Belgium beer on this show. But yeah, 99 Bottles located on Walnut between Pacific and Cedar. A wonderful place, and thanks to them for sponsoring our show. Danny, baseball season is our favorite season.
Baseball season.
That's the most excited I've ever heard Daniel Zarchi in my entire life. So we're going to kick it off with a story that's a little lighter because you're excited, and I don't want to bring you down yet. Adam Jones is not allowed to pie people in the face anymore.
Yeah, the Orioles are being pie Nazis.
What is the safety concern of a pie to the face? Is it a broken nose? Is it cream in the eye? Is it a nasal inhalation of meringue? What is the problem here?
Well, there was one player, and I really wish I could remember who it was.
I hope he died. I hope this story is that he died.
No, but,
I'm
sorry for you. No, there was one player who, jumped over another guy, jumped on him to, slam him in the face with the pie and, tore a knee muscle or something like that. But, I mean, I don't know. It feels like they've gone too far. Some teams are banning, hoverboards in the locker room. That makes sense. Okay, you can seriously hurt yourself.
Yeah, I saw Mike Tyson take an epic fall on one of those, and that's a professional athlete.
But you've got Yoenis Cespedes riding in on a horse, and the horse is walking on pavement, which apparently former farm boy Buster Olney was terrified watching Yoenis Cespedes do this because he knows that horses do not navigate well on pavement, and he was worried that something bad would happen.
Can Adam Jones pie the horse in the face?
Well, one of the funniest things that I found out during this whole story is apparently, as you know, most teams, when they do the pie in the face, it's just a pie tin filled with shaving cream.
Oh, they were getting professional pies. I saw this.
But Baltimore was using real pies because a Baltimore area bakery found out that they were using fake pies and started supplying them with real pies. Brilliant promotion. I think this was a great idea on their part, even though they knew that all these pies were obviously going to waste against somebody's face.
Yeah, such high-quality pies. No one's eating them. There's not a crowd of people that descend upon the player's face with forks like Alice in Wonderland in that old Tom Petty video. I could. I can imagine Pablo Sandoval, Delman Young, a couple of these bigger guys descending with forks.
Well, I noticed Boston hasn't outlawed them. So
Boston cream pie. They can't. It's too famous. Baltimore Orioles player Felix P.A. once pied in the face. P.A. spelled P-I-E.
Oh, wow.
That was a moment of bitter irony. I guess that's not irony, is it? What's that an example of? Just a God's sick metaphor? Wordplay? Okay. I don't know. I'm bad with these literary terms.
Coincidence?
Coincidence? It's a coincidence that a man named P.A. got hit with a P.A. in the face. Isn't our friend Dylan a PA? We should get him in on this. Okay. Moving on, a medium sad story. Ian Desmond's contract.
Yeah, I feel really bad for him.
What is with these players?
No. Well, I think the sad story is that basically we've probably seen the end of Josh Hamilton's career.
Josh Hamilton?
Well, part of the story here is that poor, homeless Ian Desmond finally found a team to hire him in the Texas Rangers. And this news, they're going to put him in left field. This news came right after the news broke that Josh Hamilton is going to be missing several months of the season with yet another injury. So that's kind of why I'm taking it that way.
Oh, Josh Hamilton's always a little bit hurt. He's always going to play 2/3 of his season or less. So that's just where he's at in his career. I didn't even think about him in this. I just keep seeing these Major League Baseball players declining their player option.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have done that.
That's what I'm saying. I keep seeing this $15.3 million player option being turned down, and then the guy signs for 2 years, 12, or 1 year, 8, like Ian Desmond did. And it's like, dude, did your agent not say, hey, man, this is your market. The team's going to have to give up a first-round pick to sign you. So that first-round pick, that doesn't affect you, but that affects the other team. They're not going to want to pay as much for you and give up a pick. So he basically just lost himself $7.3 million by not wanting to go back to the Nationals. Now, do you think he cares about that, or was it so poisonous in Washington towards the end that he just didn't want to be there anymore? Because for $7.3 million, I'll be Jonathan Papelbon's butler.
I think, frankly, I don't really care. But
I want to know the state of Washington if a guy loses $7.5 million because he doesn't want to play there.
Listen, Ian Desmond had a terrible season. He's going to be 30. With a 30-year-old at a prime position coming off the worst year of his career.
That's why you take the deal.
Who played awful defense the entire season, or at least for a substantial portion of the season. This guy should have known going in that he was not going to be a prime commodity. The whole thing about the qualifying offer is that it really, really enforces that there are tiers of players out there, right? You've got Zach Greinke, who
the lowest tier. Yeah.
No, you got the Zach Greinke's of the world. Zach Greinke, Jason Hayward, guys like that, who got a qualifying offer, and the team still try to sign him at a premium salary because the first round pick is not very much to give up in return for signing somebody. And you saw the Giants also do that with Johnny Cueto and Jeff Samardzija. They knew that both of these guys were going to be good. They were going to be cornerstones of the franchise for the next, 2 to 4 to 5 years. And they were happy to give up picks. Cueto was not a qualifying offer because he changed teams mid-season last year, but Jeff Samardzija was.
And Samardzija's giving up the pick was worked into the value of the contract, yeah.
Right. But so you've got, the Greinke and Hayward who are going to get their money no matter what. You've got guys like Jeff Samardzija who you look at and you go, okay, well, he's still worth it. And then you've got guys like Dexter Fowler who eventually find a team, but their value is definitely diminished as a result. And then you've got guys like Kendrys Morales and Stephen Drew, who a couple of years ago were offered qualifying offers and turned them down and then didn't sign with the team until after draft day.
Yeah, and that's been pissing off agents and even a couple of clubs that they just can't sign these guys because those picks are too valuable to them.
Right, but it kind of, and that's been one of the big talking points is, the new collective bargaining agreement is coming up after the season, and they're going to have to fix it because, it's diminishing all these guys' value. But at the same time, like, these guys turned down a $15 million contract. Like, do you think that they turned it down for any reason except that they were told that they could get more money? More money
or more years. You don't like to play under a one-year deal like a lot of coaches are like, I refuse to coach under a one-year contract because it's just, you don't like that feeling of insecurity. But going out and then signing a one-year deal for half the value, I just don't understand what he gained from this at all.
What he gained was that he dramatically overestimated his value.
He gained a little life lesson. Thanks, MLB.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't imagine any scenario whereby this is what he wanted to do. What he probably thought is that he was going to go out and, people out there were going to say, oh, a shortstop who can hit home runs and steal bases, and then sign him for whatever he asked for. Well, it turns out that he's just not worth it. That people looked at him, they saw a declining skill set at an advanced age, somebody who's gotten consistently worse every year of his career since 2012, and somebody who can't necessarily play his position very well anymore.
Okay.
And they see a very, very limited value, and that value is apparently like $8 million.
So he loses $7.3 million. Aroldis Chapman, our next topic, he loses $2 million because he's been suspended 30 games by Major League Baseball for the domestic violence accusations coming out of Florida last October. What did you think of the length of the suspension? What do you think about the incident overall?
Well, what I think about the incident is that it's awful. And
what about the apology or the lack of an apology?
I don't care about that. I mean, when we've talked about football and things like that, and all these bad acts done by football players, and should the punishment be more severe? I really don't think that having a heavy punishment is in the moment going to, convince him not to shoot his gun into a house, where there's a child or something like that.
Well, he apologized for the gun. That was the thing he was sorry about.
I mean, I think these are crimes of passion by people who are, indoctrinated into a culture, and it's just, it's awful. It's awful, and I don't think that the solution is jack up all of the penalties. That said, I want them to be punished severely.
So is 30 games severe to you?
Well, and that's the tricky part and I read a good article about it, I think on your former employer, SB Nation, talking about it and how, this is the first time anybody's been suspended under MLB's new domestic violence policy. And so this is, the bellwether by which everything else will be measured. And the MLB knows, and Rob Manfred knows, that if it's too severe, then the players' union is going to appeal. And they could lose.
And Chapman didn't appeal. Yeah.
Right. So Manfred presumably wanted to split the difference between something that was strong enough to send a message and punish the guy, but also
still send some kind of statement. Yeah.
Yeah, some kind of statement by which by which people could see that he's serious and that MLB is serious, but it claims to care about women and violence and domestic violence, but at the same time not go, so, you're not going to permanently remove this guy from baseball or anything like that because there's a certain point at which it is too much.
Yeah,
by due process standards or something like that.
So to your point, this is something he's not going to face charges for this most likely. It's a lot of it's been dismissed for lack of evidence, conflicting stories, et cetera, et cetera. So what happens when someone does get convicted? What happens when there is a more solid case against someone, what would the suspension be for that? Is it half a season? Is that the number, like 80 games? Or what?
Well, I'll let you know after Jose Reyes' case. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's kind of what's interesting is these two cases coming hand in hand. You look at the two, and you basically have to decide. You have to, I think, decide that Reyes is going to be more than Chapman. Not necessarily because the conduct was more egregious, but because there's more evidence, because Reyes may actually face criminal charges. I mean, I think he's scheduled to go on trial on opening day, something along those lines. So, I think one positive is that there was never any reason why MLB needed to rely on there being criminal charges in order to suspend these people, right? That was a big point, is they said, regardless of all these other factors, we're going to make our own decision. And that's something that you saw. And that's something that you saw in football a lot, where somebody like Ray McDonald would, beat his wife or rape somebody or something like that. And the Niners would say, well, we're going to let it play out in the legal system before we decide anything. And it's like, that's crap, okay? Like, just because there isn't beyond a reasonable doubt evidence that this person committed this crime does not mean that the league can look at this and say, we don't want this person playing football. Like, those are separate things. And so, to that end, I commend Manfred and MLB for coming out very quickly and strongly and saying, we don't care what the legal system is doing. We're going to make our independent judgment as to what happened and how that jives with our culture here and whether we want this guy around. So that's good. That's unequivocally good.
That's an excellent point, Danny. I totally agree with you, and we will wait for that Jose Reyes decision to come down. He will not be attending spring training. We'll see what goes down in the regular season. Time to take our last break and remind you once again about Fanatics.com and FansEdge.com. Both high-quality merchandise on the cheap, 20, 30, even 40% off all your favorite team and sports merchandise. Go through our website, coachesdecisionkso.com. We've got some links in every one of our posts for these lovely sponsors, FansEdge.com and Fanatics.com. Right now, it is time to bring on our producer, Victoria, producer Tory. She loves the Kinks. I just love this song.
Everybody loves the Kinks.
Everybody loves the Kinks. Everybody loves that song. Welcome, producer Tory. Your mic is hot. What do you got for us today in Tory Topics?
So, Yoenis Cespedes buys a $7,000 Grand Champion hog at the county fair.
Now.
Wait.
Okay.
Unrelated, Cespedes is known for being a barbecue enthusiast.
Yeah, I saw there.
No, actually.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the news came out. He sent the hog to the butcher. It's already over.
Yeah,
the hog
is angry.
What? It's a pig. How many pigs get? Okay, we're not going to get into that. But when I saw Champion Hog, I was picturing like capital C Champion, and it's like a Harley Davidson or something. I thought it was going to be a
like
motorcycle.
The stock company.
It was at a county fair. Of course it's a pig.
I didn't see the county fair. I just thought he buys Champion Hog, and I was like, oh, he's got a new motorcycle. Because he's been bringing those cars to camp every day, and I thought maybe he decided to go two wheels. But no, horseback, a pig. This man has too much money. Danny?
I think what I really want to know is I want you to go and talk to Tommy Todd III.
Okay.
And tell him Yoenis Cespedes bought a Champion Hog and see what he says.
Yeah, he would think it's a motorcycle as well. I figured out what's happening. Yoenis Cespedes is living out Brewster's Millions. Do you guys know this movie? Richard Pryor.
Somewhat.
Richard Pryor has an old dead white relative. I don't know how this happens, who has multiple hundreds of millions of dollars and hated his life because wealth wasn't everything it was cracked up to be. So he leaves it to this guy, Monty Brewster, minor league baseball player, has no money, has nothing but the jersey on his back. So he leaves him $30 million and says, if you can spend $30 million in 30 days and have no assets from it, you get the full inheritance of $300 million. So I think that's what Cespedes is doing. He's been given a number. And he has to spend this amount of money before some weird, strangely rich and white relative can pass it on to him.
I like this. I like this theory.
You should watch this movie. It's actually a pretty good movie. John Candy is in it. You know, it's not peak Richard Pryor, but it's post-peak Richard Pryor. He makes a lot of noises and, you know, does his Richard Pryor thing. So it's a worthy movie. Tory, next topic.
Swaggy P.
Oh, boy.
Nick Young had to do push-ups because he dared a fan sitting courtside to hit a shot from the stands. The fan made the shot.
I mean, that's more than Swaggy P can do most times. I would like to see the fan doing the push-ups while Swaggy P watched, because that's probably a more entertaining scenario.
In other news, the Lakers drafted that guy.
He's signed to a 10-day contract now.
Yes.
Danny, what's your range? I can't remember. 6 or 7 feet?
I can make a free throw on a good day.
On a good day? I remember we've gotten to arguments about free throw shooting before, and I think we've even gotten into it on this show about how NBA players can't make free throws, and somehow I defend them and you don't, even though, you know, you make free throws on good days that start with T and where you've had a good lunch but not too much lunch. And
Okay. In my own defense, my argument is that professional basketball players, of which I am not one, should be able to make free throws. And second of all, can we all just applaud Andre Iguodala for hitting 2 free throws in what are the clutchest moments in any situation to hit free throws?
So I can't lie to the listeners. I had to watch the game on a replay and watch highlights and such because I was busy during the actual game being played. But when someone told me what had happened, they were laying it out, and they told me the whole story, and I heard every aspect of it, and they're like, isn't that crazy? And I was like, yeah, it's insane that Andre Iguodala hit both of his free throws. Because that was the most surprising part of the story. It wasn't that Curry hit a 32-footer. It wasn't that Draymond saved a ball out of bounds. It might have been the trap of Durant in the corner and how the Thunder didn't call timeout. But for me, the part that my jaw hit the floor on was Iguodala made both free throws. There should be a Warriors blog out called IguodalaMadeBoth.com or something.
And they rarely post.
They post once a year. Tory?
For the record, that 32-footer was upgraded to a 37-footer.
A 30. It doesn't matter the number. It's forever from
Steph
the
Curry's
basket.
going to make it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Gary Woodland had to play his ball out of the mud at the, what was it, the Honda
Classic,
whatever it is.
Who cares? Golf.
So in order to do it, he took off his pants because they were white.
He took off his pants?
To play the ball out of the mud.
Wow.
In the end, he finished
golf is not the way it used
61st
to be.
overall.
He did what now?
He finished 61st overall. But hey, his pants stayed clean.
Yeah, the amount of spots that he didn't go up to get the more money in the dry cleaning. Now, it's not really a joke in here that isn't totally disgusting.
Yeah.
Let's just say that if you're going to be the 60-something best golfer in the tournament, you need to get your name out there in some other way.
I do. Do we have a color or pattern on his underwear? Is that in the story?
It was just, there's photos. It's just like gray boxer briefs.
Okay.
It's really boring.
Well, I mean, it would have been weird if it was something, more revealing, or, I mean, Tidy Whitey's probably would have been
aces.
He probably wouldn't have taken off his pants unless he had a decent pair of boxers.
Respectable pair of pants.
Were they boxer briefs?
Yeah, they were boxer briefs.
Oh, what a man.
That's the correct choice.
Speaking of boxer briefs.
Oh, my. Short boxing career? Was that what we're talking about?
Mississippi State lineman and NFL prospect Chris Jones washes out of the 40-yard dash due to a wardrobe malfunction.
This was hilarious. Danny, did you see this?
Twig and berries jostle right out of his shorts.
No, I did not.
He's running the 40, and little Chris Jones comes out. Little Chris and the Jones boys come out, and he basically finishes the 40 and flops onto his stomach and slides across the platform, I guess, to get into a position to gather himself. But yeah, probably the most embarrassing 40-yard dash since Tom Brady's at the Combine in 2000, which I think he's still running to this day if you watch that video.
The best part is...
Okay,
you're going to Google this right now.
I'm watching Chris Jones right now, so if you hear me laughing in 10 seconds...
Naked Underwear tweeted to him saying that they would be willing to sponsor him. And I hope that he takes it because make that sweet underwear money.
I mean, Under Armour, he may need some actual armor because skidding across the ground on one's junk is not good. I'm just picturing airplane wheels hitting the ground, landing.
Little skid?
Yeah, skid marks, and no, No. Danny, have you watched it yet?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
He just got there.
All right, Tory.
The Dodgers will not allow Yasiel Puig to fly his helicopter 2 games.
I don't think he actually bought the helicopter yet. I think he asked.
I think this is a hypothetical helicopter.
Yeah, he said, if I buy a helicopter, I will never be late. And they said, well, the FAA says you cannot fly a helicopter into Dodger Stadium. And he said, well, I'm going to be late. I think that's it. There was also another Dodgers player who's always said he knew he needed to be somewhere because he heard Yasiel leave, knowing he would never be the last person there if he just left whenever Puig left.
So can we just address the fact that the Dodgers now have 2 Yasiels in their system?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? There's a baby boom in Cuba on Yasiels.
That's kind of my joke. I have nothing beyond that.
Okay, one more, Tory, quick one.
All right.